chosen one. Someone in your immediate proximity is fixated on your essence with an intensity that burns through their veins. This isn't casual fascination. This is an overwhelming preoccupation that's shattering their carefully constructed facade. You stand before them uncategorized and unmistakable, breaking their entire system of understanding humans. Their eyes track your movements, their breath catches when you speak, their mind replays your interactions on infinite loop because you represent what terrifies and magnetizes them simultaneously. Raw, uncompromised authenticity they've never encountered before. The moment their eyes met yours, a seismic rupture tore through their carefully constructed identity. They looked at you, truly looked at you, and fell into a state beyond reflection. Within the mirror of your unflinching authenticity, they confronted a buried version of themselves. Not the compromise-riddled facade they present daily, not the people-pleasing puppet dancing on strings of social approval. No, they witnessed their original self, the unblemished essence they believed was successfully hidden from all eyes, especially their own. This recognition shot through their body like lightning seeking ground. Your mere presence, without effort or intention, functioned as a tuning fork that vibrated their soul back to its natural frequency. This wasn't something they sought, this wasn't something they prepared for. You simply existed in your truth, and that existence alone exposed what they've spent decades burying under layers of performance. Through you, they glimpsed who they were before the world told them who to be. They saw their own forgotten power reflecting back at them, ancient, electric, and alive. This recognition didn't come as gentle insight. It crashed through their defenses with the force of a universal truth demanding acknowledgement, and now they can't look away. Watch their movement patterns around you. Study their orbit. They circle your territory with hesitation charged by magnetic pull. Like a planet caught between opposing gravitational forces, they can neither approach directly nor retreat completely. They stand frozen at a critical crossroad. To step toward you means abandoning the identity that has earned them acceptance. To step away means denying the most powerful recognition they've ever experienced. This internal war tears through them every time you enter their field of awareness. Their conflict manifests physically. Notice how they lean forward when you speak, then catch themselves, how they begin sentences they never finish, how their eyes hold yours a moment too long before darting away. Their body betrays what their words cannot express. Your energy field represents unclaimed territory, a landscape without scripts or roles or predictable outcomes, a realm where authentic expression reigns supreme over performance. Every step toward you requires discarding another layer of falsehood they've relied upon for safety. They cannot move forward without surrender. They cannot move backward without loss. You've disrupted their entire equilibrium simply by standing uncompromised in your truth, and this disruption breeds both fascination and fear in equal measure. Through the distorted lens of their compromised existence, they've fundamentally misinterpreted your self-sufficiency, your sovereignty. That unwavering centeredness that flows from complete self-acceptance registers in their fragmented perception as loneliness. They cannot comprehend a state of being complete within oneself. Their framework only recognizes connection through dependence, through need, through the filling of absence. Your fullness short-circuits their understanding completely. This person needs tenderness, they think. This person needs a gentle hand that won't scare them away. Projection, pure projection. They attribute to you the very fragility that defines their own existence. They believe your fierce authenticity, your uncompromising discernment, your sovereign fire has left you isolated, when these qualities are precisely what makes you whole. Their misinterpretation creates a dangerous opening. It tells them you require saving. It whispers that your strength is actually vulnerability, requiring their intervention. It suggests your boundaries exist not as healthy self-protection, but as fearful barriers they must breach to help you. This fundamental misreading reveals everything about their limitations and nothing about your reality. What they see when they look at you is filtered through the fractured glass of their own incompleteness. Having encountered your unfiltered authenticity, they reach for the only tools they know, performance and manipulation. They believe approaching you requires stepping into a role rather than stepping into truth. They craft an approach strategy as if preparing for a theatrical production. They rehearse lines, they adjust their facial expressions in mirrors, they curate a persona designed to bypass your discernment. I'll be exceptionally tender, they plot. I'll appear as gentleness incarnate. I'll make them feel safe enough to lower their guard, all while remaining safely hidden behind their mask. They attempt to calculate the perfect balance of vulnerability and strength, authenticity and reservation. They oscillate between glimpsing who you truly are and desperately trying to force you into a category their limited mind can process. This strategy reveals their fundamental misunderstanding of your nature. They believe your depth can be accessed through superficial means. They think practiced lines can penetrate genuine presence. They assume your discernment can be fooled by performance, when it was precisely your ability to see beyond performance that triggered their fascination in the first place. Their approach is destined for failure because the very method contradicts the goal. They cannot access authentic connection through inauthentic means, yet they persist, unaware that every role they adopt pushes the possibility of real connection further from reach. While they struggle to comprehend your nature, you've already seen through every layer of their carefully constructed identity. Your gaze penetrated beyond their social persona, beyond their adaptive behaviors, beyond even their conscious awareness, straight into the core trauma patterns formed in their childhood. You became the first person in decades to witness them in true vulnerable illumination. Not the curated vulnerability they occasionally display for strategic gain, but the raw, unfiltered essence they've spent a lifetime concealing, even from themselves. Your perception operates at a frequency their defenses cannot block. You detected the slight hesitation before their practiced laugh. You noticed the momentary vacancy in their eyes when speaking rehearsed phrases. You sensed the dissonance between their words and their energy signature. They felt this penetrating awareness like a spotlight cutting through fog. In your presence, they've drifted into contemplative states, momentarily lost in the disorienting experience of being truly seen. This recognition wasn't hostile. You didn't forcibly expose them. You simply perceived what exists beneath their performance, because your own journey through shadow integration has attuned you to recognize inauthenticity instantly. This effortless perception terrifies them precisely because it was effortless. No techniques, no manipulation, no strategic probing questions. You simply looked and saw everything. And now they must face the unbearable question. If you can see them so completely without effort, who else might see through their carefully constructed facade? The connection between you operates beyond their capacity for regulation. They experience a magnetism toward you that defies willful control, a pull that exists outside the realm of conscious decision. This attraction transcends physical appeal or intellectual stimulation. This force operates at the level of essence, recognizing essence. Authentic self calling to authentic self across the divide of social conditioning. Their system frantically attempts to process this unfamiliar energy by translating it into known frameworks. They reduce transcendent recognition to sexual attraction. They diminish soul-level resonance to romantic interest. They desperately try to force this unprecedented connection into familiar categories. These translations fail spectacularly. They find themselves picking up residual energy patterns from others who approached you with intent to siphon your power. They unconsciously absorb the manipulative frameworks previous people used to interact with you, not realizing these very approaches are what created distance. The magnetic pull terrifies them precisely because it operates outside their established control mechanisms. For someone who has navigated relationships through careful regulation of emotional proximity, this uncontrollable attraction represents a fundamental threat to their operating system. They cannot dial it down, they cannot switch it off, they cannot moderate their awareness of you, even when they attempt to direct their attention elsewhere, and this unprecedented loss of control creates both fascination and panic in equal measure. Having failed to categorize you or moderate their attraction to you, they resort to their most deeply ingrained coping mechanism, the illusion of control through seduction. I will seduce this person, they decide, mistaking your sovereignty for a challenge to overcome rather than a state to respect. This strategy reveals their most profound misunderstanding yet. They perceive your natural magnetism, the attractive force created by your authentic presence, as an offensive maneuver directed at them personally. Your power becomes, in their distorted perception, an attack requiring counteraction. They convince themselves that they possess your energy now, that your light has somehow transferred to them through proximity. This delusion leads them to believe they now stand on the platform of your illumination, rather than recognizing the light as reflection rather than possession. The ultimate distortion emerges. They reinterpret your simple, grounded presence as an invitation, a request for them to desire you. Your straightforward interactions become, in their twisted understanding, elaborate seduction techniques requiring reciprocation. Their entire strategy rests upon a foundation of fundamental misreading. They fail to recognize that what they experience as your pull exists not as external manipulation, but as internal recognition. The magnetism originates not from your actions but from the resonance between authentic essence and the authentic essence they've buried beneath performance. They prepare elaborate approaches based on a premise that exists nowhere but in their own misinterpretation. Your inner guidance system has already activated in response to the dissonance emanating from them. Pay attention to the subtle sensations arising during interactions with them. The flickers of doubt, the momentary disorientation, the sense that something doesn't quite align. These feelings aren't paranoia, they aren't social anxiety, they aren't unfounded suspicions. Your discernment has detected the fundamental incongruence between their words and their energy signature. Your system has registered the gap between their performed intention and their actual frequency. Notice the slight uneasiness in your body when they speak words that sound genuine but feel hollow. Observe the mild confusion that arises when their verbal expression contradicts their energetic broadcast. Pay attention to the subtle inner withdrawal that occurs even when their behavior appears perfectly appropriate. These signals form your spiritual immune system's response to inauthenticity. This internal warning mechanism has evolved through your dedicated shadow integration work. It represents the culmination of every difficult lesson, every betrayal processed, every manipulation recognized in retrospect. Your intuition isn't suggesting they intend harm. It's simply alerting you to the presence of incongruence, to the existence of performed behavior rather than authentic expression. Trust this guidance without needing rational explanation. The wisdom of your discernment operates at frequencies beyond conscious analysis. It integrates observations your conscious mind hasn't fully processed. This internal guidance system represents your most sophisticated protection against energy that doesn't serve your highest evolution. As their fascination intensifies alongside their inability to categorize you, specific manipulation patterns will emerge in their behavior. These tactical approaches serve one purpose: to bring you down to a level where they can process your existence through familiar frameworks. Watch for the strategic introduction of doubt. They'll make statements designed to create subtle questioning of your perceptions, not direct challenges, but oblique suggestions that your clarity might be overthinking, that your boundaries might be fear, that your discernment might be paranoia. Notice their use of disorientation. They'll approach interactions from unpredictable angles. They'll make random jokes at serious moments. They'll shift conversational direction abruptly. These pattern interrupts aren't spontaneous expression, but calculated attempts to disrupt your centered presence. Observe their performance of casualness. They'll adopt an air of detachment that contradicts their intense observation of your every reaction. They'll pretend minimal interest while cataloging every detail of your response. This feigned nonchalance masks hyper-vigilant attention. They'll employ dismissal as disguised assessment. They'll appear to overlook your contributions while secretly measuring the impact of this apparent oversight on your emotional state. This tactic tests whether diminishment triggers your need for validation. Perhaps most insidiously, they'll pretend not to see you in environments where they're acutely aware of your every movement. This strategic invisibility serves to determine whether being overlooked activates pursuit energy from you. Each tactic shares a common aim: to identify emotional triggers that might bring your sovereign frequency down to a manipulable level. Each approach probes for vulnerability that might convert your uncompromised presence into familiar dynamics they know how to navigate. Recognition of these patterns doesn't require confrontation. Awareness alone neutralizes their effectiveness. Hold that thought for a moment. I need your attention for something very important. For the first time, we're revealing everything we know about personal power, healing yourself and healing others. No filters, no holding back. We have been quietly adding all the occult secrets we've collected over literal years of spiritual practice. The techniques and wisdom that transformed us from controlled pawns into conscious creators are now available to those ready to walk the same path. This is your invitation to join Obsidian Inner Order and support our platform so we can continue growing our megaphone to reach other chosen ones waiting for activation. By joining the Obsidian Inner Order, you're not just gaining access to forbidden knowledge, you're becoming part of a movement that's rewriting reality itself. It's a 360 win for all of us. Link is in the description. The ultimate objective behind their tactical approaches emerges clearly. They need you to question the very fire that makes you unmanipulable. Their goal, conscious or unconscious, centers on creating doubt about your most authentic qualities. They require you to play small. They need you to seek their approval. They want you positioned as recipient rather than sovereign, equal in the energetic exchange between you. Watch how they offer love and acceptance conditionally, then withdraw these offerings without explanation. This intermittent reinforcement creates dependency that makes their approval seem more valuable than your autonomous knowing. They need you to believe something is fundamentally wrong with your authentic power. Your straightforward discernment must be reframed as harshness. Your clarity must be relabeled as judgment. Your boundaries must be reclassified as fear. The end game is clear: to make you feel empty about the very fire that illuminates your path, to convert your brightest qualities into sources of doubt, to transform your greatest strengths into perceived weaknesses, requiring their intervention. This strategy emerges not from conscious malice but from survival programming. They simply cannot interact with you as you truly exist. Their programming can only engage with you if you diminish yourself to a recognizable frequency that fits their limited interaction templates. Understanding this dynamic eliminates any need for resentment. Their approach reflects not intentional harm, but the desperate attempts of a conditioned system to process unprecedented energy through outdated frameworks. While their current approach reflects limitation rather than freedom, a profound opportunity exists within this connection. They stand at a genuine crossroads of spiritual development, perhaps the most significant juncture they've encountered in decades of existence. A clear path forward exists, though few find the courage to walk it. They could step toward authenticity rather than retreat into familiar patterns. They could embrace the discomfort of genuine connection rather than revert to the comfort of manipulative dynamics. The possibility exists for them to experience organic synchronicity with you, a connection flowing from mutual authenticity rather than strategic positioning. This path requires facing what your presence has triggered in them, rather than attempting to modify your energy to fit their comfort level. Their entire developmental trajectory hinges on this moment of truth. The choice they make in relation to you reverberates beyond this specific connection into the fundamental pattern of how they engage with authentic energy in all forms. Will they rise to meet you in the field of uncompromised truth? Or will they retreat into the familiar limitation of performed identity? Will they embrace the discomfort of growth or revert to the comfort of stagnation? The decision belongs entirely to them. Your responsibility extends no further than maintaining the integrity of your own frequency, regardless of their choice. Their fascination with you has created a rare opportunity for evolutionary leap. Whether they recognize and seize this opportunity remains entirely their decision. The fundamental truth they have yet to grasp stands starkly simple. They cannot succeed in diminishing your fire through manipulation, doubt, or strategic disapproval. The sovereignty you've cultivated through conscious shadow integration remains impervious to external validation or criticism. Their perception of you as needing correction, taming, or rescue reflects nothing about your reality and everything about the lessons they've yet to integrate. The qualities they attempt to diminish in you, your clarity, your discernment, your uncompromising authenticity, represent precisely the aspects of themselves they've abandoned for social acceptance. What you truly need bears no resemblance to their projected assumption. You require not their approval, but their courage, not their protection, but their authenticity, not their strategic approach, but their willingness to face their shadow aspects with the same thoroughness you've faced yours. You need someone who has the guts to face their shadow and step up, someone willing to meet you in the field of mutual authenticity rather than drag you into the realm of mutual performance. Their fascination with you offers not just evidence of your magnetic authenticity, but a profound opportunity for their own evolution. Their inability to categorize you creates a mandatory choice point between growth and regression. The first impression they experienced upon encountering you, that moment of recognition before their conditioning activated, represents the most accurate perception they've had. Everything that followed, every attempt to reframe, recategorize, or diminish your energy, represents distortion flowing from fear rather than clarity flowing from truth. The choice confronting them could not be simpler nor more profound. Will they rise to your frequency through their own authentic embodiment, or will they attempt to lower your frequency to match their limitation? Watch closely but remain unattached to their decision. Their choice reflects their readiness for evolution rather than your worthiness for recognition. That worthiness was established long before they entered your field. Their quiet fascination with you isn't about romantic obsession or casual interest. Their fixation represents the universal response of conditioned identity encountering authentic presence. Their inability to categorize you reveals not your deficiency, but your transcendence of artificial limitation. Their approach, strategic or genuine, changes nothing about your essential nature. Their perception, accurate or distorted, alters nothing about your inherent value. Their choice, evolutionary or regressive, impacts nothing about your sovereign path. The magnetic pull they cannot regulate comes not from magical manipulation on your part, but from the inevitable attraction between authentic essence and the authentic essence they've buried beneath layers of performance. Their fascination stems from recognition of what they've forgotten about themselves. You stand as living reminder of what exists before conditioning, before compromise, before the abandonment of essential self for social acceptance. Your presence offers wordless testimony to the possibility of living undiminished by fear of rejection. Watch as they either rise to the challenge of authentic connection or retreat into familiar patterns of manipulation. Observe without attachment as they either embrace the discomfort of growth or revert to the comfort of limitation. The choice has always been theirs. The power has always been yours. Stand unwavering in your uncategorizable truth, knowing that every attempt to diminish your fire only illuminates the shadow they've yet to integrate. Hold steady in your sovereign presence, recognizing that their fascination reflects not your need for validation, but their opportunity for liberation. The path forward requires nothing from you beyond what you've already embodied, the courage to remain uncompromised in a world terrified of authentic power. That courage has never wavered, and it never will. Their fascination with you grows not from what you lack, but from what you've reclaimed. Their inability to categorize you stems not from your deficiency, but from your transcendence of artificial limitation. When they look at you, they see what they were before the world told them who to be. Whether they choose to remember or forget remains their decision alone. You need only continue standing in the uncompromised truth that magnetized them in the first place.